I can actually, yeah, well, I can come there as well. Thank you, Group Captain, for inviting me here, and also Mr. Venkatramana for the wonderful introduction. This is a topic that's very close to my heart because I was asking these questions maybe 40 years ago as to why am I here and what is my purpose. And at that point, I seemed out of place. Now yoga is a multi-billion-dollar industry, and everybody is talking about spirituality, and everybody in the West is monetizing on it as well beautifully. I won't say beautifully in terms of positively, but beautifully in terms of the marketing. So when we come in to this topic of awakening, what are we awakening to? And what are we awakening from is the question. So we're awakening to joy, bliss. We all know that. Yoga promises us in the package that you practice this, and the promise is joy, the promise is ease, the promise is freedom. And what are we awakening from? And these great yogis, I prefer to call them the ancient researchers, they tell us that we are awakening from the stupor where we are conditioned to believe we are limited. So what is this conditioning? What is this programming? What is this limitation that we operate from? And I love the example of, or the story of these feral kids who were discovered. So feral kids are kids who are left in the forest, and they were raised by animals, maybe wolves, maybe monkeys. So depending on which animal raised the human child will behave in exactly the same manner. So if it was a monkey, it's making monkey sounds, swinging from tree to tree, actually having strong arms. So that's a good thing for survival. Or if it's raised by wolves, then you have, the child walking on all fours. And they found that it was difficult after a particular age to integrate these kids back into society. So that was not happening very easily because their minds have become conditioned by the animals that parented them. So they couldn't integrate back into human society. Now the rishis or the yogis look at humans and they say the same thing. They say that we are conditioned for survival. Yes, I want a job, marriage, children. Not that it's a bad thing. But by function of who our parents are, by function of who or what society imprints on us, by function of our schooling, by function of what is fed into our minds at an early age and after, what is fed into our minds by media, directs the course of our lives. So they say, can we redirect this course by actually looking at our conditioning? And this can be done at any age. These new neural pathways in the brain can be reprogrammed at any age, is what these ancient researchers promise us. And for me at a young age, that was fascinating because I came from a family of pretty, I would say, successful professionals. But I saw a lot of dysfunctionalities. They were fighting over property, fighting over anything possible. And I was like, what's the point of all this success if you just can't be peaceful in your own home and you can't love each other when the simple things, the beauty of the simple things are lost? And so I sought out a guru when I was really young. Again, this is about 30 plus years ago. I went into the Shivananda ashram. I went into the Ananda ashram for many years. And at that point, people thought I was crazy. They were like, why do you want to do this at this young age? This is post-retirement plan, That's what you should be doing. And thankfully, my mother was convinced that I was not abandoning her and leaving society. I was coming back. And Again, MMA was a wonderful hub. 25 years ago was my first talk at MMA here when I was raised in Chennai. So, it's wonderful to be back and wonderful to see Vijay also in the elevator. He joined during my first talk. So it brings back a lot of positive memories where I reassured my mom that I'm not going to kind of leave society and just disappear into an ashram. And for me, the blessing of being in the ashram was taking all those tools and being able to apply it in real time here. So those are the tools. I'm not going to share a 1-hour practice, obviously, here, but there are simple tools where we can awaken to the blessing of our life, where we can awaken to our multi-dimensional potential. And I feel that this awakening, or this, at least the wisdom of it and the knowledge of it, should be taught in every single school. Unfortunately, because of the Western education, we think of ourselves as one-dimensional, which is the physical body. Whereas yoga teaches us that we are multi-dimensional. So yes, it acknowledges the physical body and it says we have a physical body called the Annamaya Kosha. So this Annamaya Kosha, Anu is cell. So it's beautiful how they had very specific names for each of the bodies or each of the dimensions we exist in. So we have a physical body, the cellular body called the Annamaya Kosha. Then we have a Pranamaya Kosha or a pranic body. For most people, it's about arm's length. But the more practices we do, the more sensitized we become, the more aligned we become, aligned with the universality. Our personality melts into the universality. Then this pranic field radiates. And it is said that the Buddha had a pranic field of 1 kilometer. In those days, that was the internet. So his disciples who were tuned into the Buddha would say, oh, our master is coming or our guide is coming, even when he was 1 kilometer away, because they could tune into his pranic field. So that's fascinating. So we are going to also learn practices where we'll become sensitized to this prana, which is accessible to each one of us. So again, I was saying that this awakening is to our multi-dimensional nature. The first dimension being the physical dimension, the Annamaya Kosha. The second dimension being our pranic dimension, the Pranamaya Kosha. Kosha means field, it means a sheath, it means a dimension. And then we also have a Manomaya Kosha, or a mind field, which extends all around us. And you may say, oh, the brain is what we think with. Yes, the brain is like a transistor, but we have waves, all these thought waves floating around us like radio stations. So if our radio station, let's say, has, always some rap music, which is angry, not all rap, most rap is pretty angry, so there's a lot of angry thoughts in that Manomaya Kosha. And when there are angry thoughts, that is going to impact the Pranamaya Kosha. And that is going to impact the Annamaya Kosha. And that is what doctors nowadays talk about psychosomatic illnesses. The mind impacts the body. The psyche impacts the soma or the physical body. So we start seeing the relationship, this interconnectedness, not only of our own koshas, our own bodies, our own dimensions, but of all of life. And we don't lead a life that's disconnected anymore. So that's the beauty of yoga. It was for me many, many years ago, and it still remains beautiful. Then we have 2 impersonal koshas. So these are more personal. I have a physical body, which defines me as a woman because physically I have those attributes. Then we have the Pranamaya Kosha, which is also personal. We have the Manomaya Kosha. Then we have these impersonal fields, the next one being the Vijnanamaya Kosha, which is the great wisdom field. Jnanam, as many of you know, all of you Indians, in the West I'll have to explain each word. So Jnanam is wisdom, Vijnanam is great wisdom. Now about 40 or 50 years ago, if I told people I'm going to go on the internet, I'm going to type a word, and it's going to download something, all the possible hits of that particular thing, and the servers are kept in different countries. You would have looked at me and said, this woman has a wild imagination. I'm talking about 50 years ago. But now it's a reality. We take it for granted that you go on the internet, you type. In fact, if it's not fast enough, we, get annoyed because we're just used to that convenience of downloading information at quick speeds. Now, again, the rishis, or these ancient researchers, they tell us that we have the capacity not just to download information, but we have the capacity to download wisdom. Vijnana, the great wisdom field from which we can download wisdom. And that to me is not only fascinating, it's become a lifelong practice. And I've seen it many times when I need guidance. My limited manomaya kosha cannot fathom which direction to take. Then I do practices where I can connect with the Vijnanamaya kosha, this great wisdom field, not just the great information internet, but the wisdom internet where the answers come to me. And I've seen it time and time again. I've traveled alone to different countries. Sometimes I'll get stuck. I won't know what to do. And I'm like, okay, I'm just going to sit there, do my Jyoti Kriya, which I will be sharing with you. And somehow, through that awakening, things align. Align not just internally, but also externally, where the right person will come into my space. For that time being, whatever is needed in that time being comes into my space because of the alignment. It's not like I'm grappling, I'm not grabbing at something. It just magnetizes and aligns. So that's the beauty of understanding the power that is there in us being multidimensional, not operating just from the physical body, not operating just from the mental body, not operating just from the emotional body, but saying we have other cosmic bodies that when we align these personal bodies with the cosmic bodies, we have such a wealth of wisdom available to us. Then the fifth kosha is the Anandamaya kosha, the bliss field. So we just wake up feeling happy because we are, this sense of beingness. We don't have to do something to be happy. So I'll come to the Anandamaya kosha later and the Atmamaya kosha. Some of them say, oh, there's this Atmamaya kosha after that as well. But we'll start with the personal koshas. That is the Annamaya kosha, the Pranamaya kosha, and the Manomaya kosha. And how do we work with these three aspects? And why do we need to work with these three aspects? How do we listen to the intelligence of the physical body to awaken the potential of what lies deep beneath? So we'll do some practices. Sitting on the chair, maybe you can turn on this mic. On la irukungla? Oh, thanks. So I'm going to request everybody to sit comfortably. And let's place our palms in this mudra called the Jyoti mudra. So Jyoti is inner illumination. And we're simply going to place the palms on the thighs and keep the eyes closed. And just be present to the sensations between the palms and fingers. The first step in awakening to our inner intelligence is cultivating the capacity for self-awareness. And for self-awareness, we start to witness ourselves. And the way we witness ourselves becomes more relaxed if we witness ourselves with compassion. So this principle is called Karuna Sakshi Bhava. Karuna is compassion, Sakshi Bhava is witnessing. So simply be aware of your sitting position. How are you sitting? Are you sitting comfortably, straight back, relaxed shoulders, or are you slouching into the chair? Just be aware. There's nothing more to this. Now see if you can just sit a bit taller, body more relaxed. And whatever sounds your body wants to release with, use any sounds, maybe a sigh. Or if there's some other feel more relaxed in your body, you can do that. Now let's gently bring our awareness to the toes, being aware of how our toes are feeling. Be aware of the soles of your feet. The feet, the ankles. Your lower legs and calves, your knees. Your thighs, how your thighs are resting on the chair. Just soften into this space. There's nowhere to go, nothing to do. Just be with the body. Bring your awareness to your bottom and how the bottom is resting on the chair. As we bring our awareness and awaken to the intelligence of the body, we're awakening to our inner child. The body is like a child, the mind like a parent. And sometimes the mind can become a tyrannical parent. Maybe that's how we were disciplined when we were young. And even after our parents are long gone, that's the conditioning we've learned. Or maybe in certain areas, the inner parent is too permissive. And here we want a healthy middle ground. So let's bring the mind or the parent to be the child or the body. Bring your awareness to the abdomen, the chest. Your lower arms, elbows, upper arms. Very gently observe and listen to this inner child. What does it have to say? And are we truly listening? Now bring your awareness to the neck, shoulders, shoulder blades. Your face starting with your chin. The tip of the chin, what are the sensations there? Your jaws, your mouth. The tip of your nose, what are the sensations in the tip of your nose? your nose, your eyes, eyelids, forehead, head, ears. If your mind wanders, gently bring it back to your inner child. There's nothing more important than creating this communication, creating this union, creating yuj, which is yoga. Now just be present to your entire body and how it's feeling. Again, we are applying Karuna Sakshi Bhava. Karuna is usually translated as compassion because sometimes the English language is not enough. Kara is hands. So it's actionable compassion, Karuna. So you can't just feel compassion towards somebody and say, this is Karuna. You have to do something to alleviate the suffering of yourself or another being, if there's true Karuna. You just can't feel it and stop there. Now gently rub your palms. Place them on the eyes. And you can slowly, gently open your eyes, coming back to the room. Take your time. So now I'm going to ask you what your inner child, as you listened, what it had to say to you. Any thoughts? For some of you dozed off, that's fine too. Feeling relaxed, that's great as well. Which means your inner child is tired, saying, you worked me all day or you worked me all week. Give me more rest. So that's good information as well, if you're feeling a bit sleepy or tired. Yes, please. Wandering. That can happen as well when you're high on adrenaline, and most of us are living in the city. So as you know, adrenaline is the stress hormone. So it's the fight, flight, freeze, fawn hormone, which is released when we're constantly in survival mode. So when adrenaline is high or cortisol is high in the system, then we won't be able to focus, because closing the eyes is a threat to survival, especially in the jungle. If we closed our eyes, we could become prey to another animal, or we lose prey, we miss out on a good catch. So closing the eyes is not very conducive in the jungle environment, and therefore there is a certain restlessness that comes along with adrenaline being high in the system. So thank you for sharing. It's normal for most people. So anything else your body mentioned? Anybody sensed pain in the body? Nobody? All pain-free. Oh, there at the back, somebody put their hands up. Is everybody pain-free here, or I'm just curious? Where did you feel it? Back. So you've had it before, or did it intensify? You had it before. Okay, great. And was it less or was it more?
I could feel it, but it was not that much.
Great. Yeah, so you felt the pain that was there. Anyone else felt some pain? No one else? Okay, great. So the pain also is a blessing as we start feeling pain more intensely. As the mind quietens, we also start to understand that there are things, sensations in the body, different sensations we could feel. But pain also is a sensation that sometimes we could miss out on because of the busyness of our minds. Again, I'll put forth another question. Do you think pain is good or bad? Fantastic, fantastic. Why is it good? Okay, the pain releases. Okay, great. Fantastic. It indicates something is not okay. So pain is an indicator to tell us that, hey, you need to change. Imagine you're cooking, doing something with your right hand, left hand singes or it's caught fire. Because of pain, we very quickly move our hands. Otherwise, after 20 minutes, we'll turn back and see half an arm missing. The pain is actually preventing us from harming or hurting ourselves further. And there was a rare disease, I don't remember, but the Hindu carried that article of a kid who had goggles and his hand was bandaged because he had a rare disease where he couldn't feel pain. He was gouging his own eyes out. He was biting his finger till it bled. So pain is actually a beautiful messenger to tell us that something is not okay. And usually when there is pain, we call out to Shiva. Shiva is consciousness. Shiva is change for the better. And with pain, that is what we are awakening to, or we are trying to understand what is it that we need to change in our lives consciously. And Shiva is the symbol of consciousness, the symbol of positive change. So as we become present to our bodies, we start to notice all these things, all these little pain points. We start to notice how our body is feeling. Is the cortisol high? Is the cortisol low? Are we able to focus? Then we start to notice, is my body tired or not tired? And there's a beautiful harmony that happens between the mind and the body. And when there's no harmony between the mind and the body, then we can become like slave drivers. We push the body so much, and before we know it, we have all these repressed emotions. And then, depending on your personality, you could either misplace that emotion on somebody else. Maybe you had a tough day at office, you go home and scream at your wife. I don't know, bang the door, or it could be a small trigger, and then, everybody's screaming at each other because of this overload which is there in the physical body, because the mind failed to see that there's an accumulation of pain points in the body. And that is why just observing the body, this Karuna Sakshi Bhava, is so important for us to have this harmony between the mind and the body, where the mind says, no, this is enough. This promotion is enough. I'm not going to push myself. Or I'm going to get systems into the office where every 1 hour we can do a practice to release certain tension points of the body. Or we can do the hakaras. We'll be learning a lot of small techniques to release tension points in the body and in the nervous system. So one practice like that is called the hissing breath, or it's called the Bhujangini Pranayama. Again, Narsi and I were talking about the impact of pranayama, how important it is for regulating emotions, for us not to be reactive but to act. That is a key, I would say, one major, big key to unlock the reactiveness in our unconscious minds. Again, I'm sure all of you have noticed, when you're angry or upset, your breath is really short. When you're in shock, even if the tension is virtual, you're watching a horror film, you're at the edge of your seat, you're not taking a breath. So the breath gets impacted unconsciously by any sort of external circumstances, especially fear, anger, stress. So what the genius of these rishis or these ancient researchers is that simply work with the breath consciously so that you can regulate your emotions. So this is what happens. It becomes short, it becomes held in. Now breathe deeply, now release and relax the nervous system. So we'll do one breath called the Sukha Bastrika, and then we'll do another breath called the hissing breath, which is the Bhujangini. So the Sukham is comfortable, Bastrikas is bellows. So we breathe in through the nose and breathe out through the mouth. This can be done at any point during the day. You don't have to be part of a yoga class. Let's say you're stuck in traffic, you just feel like screaming at somebody, then you can practice this. So we breathe in through the nose and we breathe out through the mouth, lips pouted.